every year the world's 50 best vineyards are released. According to the website, the world's best vineyards are the best places to taste terrific wines, learn about winemaking and grape growing. Many also offer superb views, restaurants, and places to stay. My only critique is that often the same properties show up on the list year after year, although this year it says that there are 15 new additions to the list. The list is put together with input from 500 different wine professionals spread across the globe. I don't really pay attention to the list all that often, but travel season is upon us. A lot of people do enotism wine travel in the late summer and the early fall months. So hey, maybe this is a guideline. I'm gonna go over the list. I think I only know of a few properties that are on the list. I haven't looked at the whole list. I'll talk about either if I've been to the estates or if I know the wines in detail. Give you as much information as I can. This is shooting from the hips. I did not look at this beforehand. Let's check out the list. I'll just watch it on YouTube because it reveals one by one. Let's take a look here. Okay, number 50, Vineyards. I have not been to Chile. South America is one blank spot on my wine travel map. Vineyards, I think, makes some beautiful Pinot Noir. I don't think that's the biggest part of their production. I'm a big fan. Chilean Pinot Noir Sauvignon Blanc is worth checking out. 49, Bodegas Muga, one of my favorite properties. Stay tuned, I actually have a Rioja video coming up. Bodegas Muga is one of the classic producers. I think even their entry-level Rioja is amazing. They have this Rioja that they call the Reserva Especial that I think you can only get there in Spain. And I think in Spain it's under 30 bucks. I think it's an outstanding wine. They also make two really top-end Grand Reservas, the Torre Muga and also the Prado Enia, I think is an outstanding. It's just classic, more medium-bodied, sweet cherry, sweet kiss of oak Rioja. And they also make a white that's pretty decent. If you go to Haro, which is in Rioja Alta, which is near the top of Rioja, you can walk into the tasting room and you don't need an appointment. You can go in there, just pay per glass, and you can taste basically anything you want. Number 47, Chateau Mukhrani. It's so funny, that's one of the first wine conferences I ever went to. I think it was the Wine Tourism Congress. That was back in 2016. The last evening was at Chateau Mukhrani. It's a beautiful estate in Georgia, one of the birthplaces of wine. You can visit there. It's fancy. Wines are a little bit modern, not really always to my taste. I think the most exciting wines that I've had in Georgia are from minimal intervention, natural producers, especially wines made in Quavery. I know they do make some wines in Quavery, but you can visit. It is a beautiful property. I remember when they visited, they had some crazy music cover bands going on. I had dinner there. That was a pretty nice evening. Some of their most well-known wines are wines based on Sapravia red grape, although a cool thing, they're one of the few properties that have the white grape Goruli Mtsvani. There's also a grape called Mtsvani in Georgia. Goruli Mtsvani is completely different. It's a little bit more bitter. When it's made in orange wine, it can be pretty tannic. By the way, I'm heading back to Georgia in about 3 weeks. I'm going to be there for 10 days shooting a vlog about Georgia. I am so excited because I haven't been there since 2016, and that's where my wine career started. Let's move on. Number 45, Disnoku from Hungary. This is in the heart of Tokaj. Before COVID took over, I used to go to Tokaj about 3 times a year. Disnoku is a beautiful estate. It's owned by the AXA group. It's now French owned. Tokaj is a real magical place. It's kind of like a place that's almost lost in time. There are not a lot of facilities there. Some of the places in Tokaj, really small, family run. You have to kind of know somebody that knows somebody to get in, but Disnoku, you can email them. They have English speaking staff. It's worth checking out, and the wines are of high quality. If you're a hardcore wine geek, I highly recommend a visit to Tokaj, one of the world's great regions historically. A lot of people don't realize that in the 17th century for fine wines, there was really only France, some regions like the Rheingau, the Mosel, and Germany for Rieslings, and Tokaj in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Number 44, Penfolds. I actually haven't been to Australia. I've spent a lot of time in New Zealand. Australia, not yet. Penfolds just sent me a set of some of their top-end wines, not the Grange, so you'll see them popping up in upcoming videos. A lot of people turn their nose up at big properties, but you know what? They make some nice wines at great prices, and then Grange is one of the most iconic wines in the world. So I guess if you're in Adelaide, check it out. Quinta do Seixo, which is the base where all the Sandman wines are made in Portugal. The Douro is a spectacular place for me. It's the most beautiful wine region in the world. The slopes are like this. It's impossibly steep. I would not go there in July and August. It is so hot. The nearest city close by is Porto, which is one of the greatest cities in Europe, in my opinion. I just absolutely love it. What happens with the Portugal shippers, you have the brand, which you have the Sandman brand here, and they source grapes from different properties. One of their main properties is Quinta do Seixo. It's owned by one of the biggest wine groups in Portugal, Sogrape. If you can't make it there, which is hard to sometimes get into the Douro because the roads are winding, there are not a ton of tourist facilities there, A cool thing is you can actually go to Porto and just go across the river and just go to the Sandman Lodge and you can taste the wines there. They have a restaurant connected to the Sandman Lodge, which is actually pretty good. I've eaten there twice. Number 41, Chateau Kafraya, one of the largest producers in Lebanon. I think Chateau Kasara is bigger. In fact, I just did 2 Lebanese red wine videos. Just do a search on YouTube, you'll find them. I have not been to Lebanon yet. It's one of my great sadnesses. I actually want to make it there. Chateau Kafraya, their base wine, I think is excellent. And some of their top-end stuff I think is really worth checking out. Also, can we say a thing about Lebanese cuisine? Some of the greatest food in the world, in my opinion. Number 40, Grahamsport Lodge. I've been to the lodge several times. Again, it's across the river from Porto. When you go there, there are several different tastings, different packages you can choose from. You can choose from just a basic tasting, or you can choose from an exclusive tasting where you taste some vintage port, some more high-end stuff. If you buy the higher package, they take you into this private room. It's really fancy, and you taste some of the good stuff, so it's worth checking out. Number 35, Sepsi Winery. Sepsi is one of the legendary producers in Hungary. Legend has it his family is credited for creating Tokaj Asszú, some of the greatest sweet wines or greatest wines in the world, period. I'm surprised this made the list because this is not a producer that you can just walk in. You have to kind of know somebody to get in there. These wines can be expensive. If you go for some of his top-end single vineyard Asszú wines, they go into hundreds of dollars. I was judging a competition in Budapest last year and Sepsi gave a workshop. István Sepsi Jr., the son of the icon István Sepsi, and we did a tasting of a lot of their Asszú wines, and it was just a magical experience because some of the wines had a little bit of age in them. You don't get a chance to taste these wines very often. Sepsi's Asszú wines, his sweet wines, are known as more powerful, more concentrated. For hardcore collectors, wine geeks, worth checking out. Number 34, Château de Beaucastel in France. I just did a reaction video to Drops of God because I was at Château de Beaucastel when they were filming. I've been to the property twice. It's one of the legendary places in France. I don't think that's just an open booking system. You can email them. I think most of the time you have to know an importer or have some ties to the industry. If you do go there, or if you get to taste the wines in general, one of my favorite wines, the Château de Beaucastel Roussan Vieille Vin. It's a white wine. Extraordinary wine. Robert Parker himself once called it the Puligny Montrachet of the Rhone. Number 33, another AXA property, Chateau Pichon-Baron, the same company that owns Disnoku earlier on the list. It's a second growth, if I remember. It's on the left bank. Yeah, it's in Pauillac, if I remember right. I was just there at the property last year. I know of some people that lead tour groups in Bordeaux and they take them to Pichon-Baron because you can actually get in and visit and taste the wines, and the chateau is beautiful. It's what everybody thinks of when they think of a French chateau. Pretty exceptional, almost looks like a Disney film. Pichon-Baron, it's a second growth. The wines aren't ridiculously expensive. I think it's under $300. Yes, I know that's expensive, but they always are pretty darn good. They make a second and third lineup of wines that I think are outstanding too. 32, Klein Constantia Winery. I have not been to South Africa yet. I'm hoping to go sooner rather than later. That's one of the legendary producers. I gotta make it there. I don't have much else to say about that. There are a couple of champagne houses, big names here, like number 31, Champagne Biécage-Samon. There was also Veuve Clicquot earlier on the list. If I were to buy champagne, but based on those two properties, I would probably buy Biécage-Samon. There's a little bit more substance. That's just my hot take. Number 30, Bodega Buza from Uruguay. So funny, 2 years ago, Wines of Uruguay sent me a pack of wines for Tannat Day. In Uruguay, their signature variety is Tannat, which is a French variety from Mataran. It's a big, bold, tannic variety. Buza actually sent me one of their wines, and their wine was the most impressive. I have not been to Uruguay yet. I have to make it over there. 29, also owned by a pretty good group, Ceretto in Italy. It's in Piemonte. They make a really nice Barolo. They have a restaurant on the property. A cool thing about Ceretto, in Barolo, demand for these wines has risen like crazy. So a lot of times you can't just call up a producer you can't visit. Even trade people becomes more and more difficult. Ceretto you can actually visit. The wines are not ridiculously overpriced and they're pretty darn good. They're known for Barolo, but they have a property in Barbaresco as well. Brico Asili, I think that's how you pronounce it. Those Barbarescos are worth checking out too. Number 26, Henschke from Australia. This is one of the legendary producers. Their Hill of Grace Shiraz is one of the most iconic wines in Australia. I've only had their basic range. I used to drink those sometimes when I was in Singapore. You're going to see a lot of oceanic themed videos coming up, namely Pinot Noir Shiraz from Australia. I know some of you have visited. I know a viewer of the channel has actually worked there, so drop your thoughts below. Number 23, Boulanger is one of the greatest houses in Champagne. Yes, it's a big house, but they produce extraordinary wines. I visited 2 years ago. I also did a vlog about Champagne, and Boulanger is in it. Maybe I'll put links to some of these videos in the pinned comments. Boulanger has this air of mystery. They have their own cooper. They make their own barrels. They use a tremendous amount of aged wine for just their basic level Champagne called Special Cuvée. I would put that up against any entry-level Champagne grower, non-grower. I think it's exceptional. Also, some of their reserve stuff like Grand Année is just spectacular. It's so funny that they put this list in there because the general public cannot just go in there. You have to know somebody to get in Boulanger. So I'm surprised that some of these make it up there. Number 21, Bodega Steel Pepe in Spain. I've been to almost all of the great regions in Europe. For some reason, I haven't been to Madeira or Jerez. This is a legendary producer of sherry. You can find these wines all over the world. Their Palo Cortado is one of the most affordable Palo Cortados I've ever seen. It's one of the rarest types of sherry. I recommend checking it out. Even their Fino is just delicious, and you can find it all over the place. Wonderful wine. Chateau d'Yquem, number 18. One of the most legendary producers in the world makes Sauternes, makes a sweet wine. It's a botrytized wine made with noble rot. What an extraordinary property. Last year at En Premiere, I was invited to a cocktail party at Chateau d'Yquem. It was such an exclusive party that each chateau only got one invite per chateau. And I remember stepping into the property, and in the middle of the property, there were all the different appellations like aged Pomerols, St. Julian, and there was dancing, there was live music. A lot of people left pretty early. I think there were less people than they expected. At the end of the night, they brought out all the cheese, and they brought out, I think, a bunch of bottles of 1989 Chateau d'Yquem. And there weren't as many people as I expected. I drank literally 2/3 of a bottle. Again, I don't think the general public can visit, so I don't know why these are up there. Number 17, d'Arenberg. I love these wines. They're widely available. The Dead Arm Shiraz is an iconic Australian Shiraz. Ages beautifully. It was one of the first aged Australian reds I think I ever had, and I was really blown away. I also recommend the original Diari's original Shiraz Grenache because that wine, I think, is available around the world for like 20 bucks. It's got texture. It's worth checking out. Number 16, Quinta de Naval, also owned by the AXA Group. AXA, by the way, is a French insurance company. So we have 3 properties there so far. They're known for making outstanding vintage port. I think their LBV port is also phenomenal, but they also make some good dry wines. Last time I was at the En Premiere of the Douro, and they had just released a more of a cru dry white, and I thought it was a pretty darn good wine. Number 15, Quinta de Cristo. I've been there a couple of times. You can actually visit this estate. There is an infinity pool and a guest house on the property. You are high up in the middle Douro. The wines, I think, are very nice. Of course, they have some more expensive wines, but the Quinta de Cristo Branco Reserva, their white Reserva, I think in Portugal is €15. It's an exceptional wine. The winemaker, Manuel, loves white Burgundy, and he tries to copy that style. I know that they're planting vineyards at higher altitudes to get more freshness in the wines. Just a nice property worth checking out. Domaine Rachel, number 14 in Austria. It's a cooperative. They do extraordinary wines at all different price points. Great Rieslings, great Grüne Veltliners. You're only a 45-minute drive from Vienna. This is their cooperative. They're a little bit bigger. They have staff to accommodate you. You can go visit. Number 12, Weingut Dr. Lucen in Germany in the Mosel. You can go to this estate. It's pretty big. The Mosel, again, one of those spectacular regions for me. I prefer the Douro a little bit more than the Mosel. However, I like Riesling a lot. It's my favorite grapevine in the world. Dr. Lucen makes a lot of affordable wines. One of their Grosses Gewachs, I can't remember the actual label, is the most affordable Grosses Gewachs dry Riesling that I've seen. I love German Riesling. The thing that irks me is the selection is so vast. The prices are so great when you're in Germany. When you get these wines abroad, the prices aren't as great, but you can find his wines. Schloss Johannesburg, number 8. It's in the Rheingau in Germany. Have been to the region, the estate. If you're in Frankfurt, you're on business, it's like a 30-minute drive. Schloss Johannesburg, these are wines that are available all over. I actually did a face-off video about a half a year ago with one of their wines that I bought in Germany. The legend has it that this is the property that discovered botrytized wine. They were basically giving the peasants, the workers, these botrytized, these rotten grapes, and they were making awesome wine out of it. So that's how it was discovered. Another, wow, Uruguayan property number 6, Bodega Garzon. They have a big-time consultant there. Their Tannat Reserva is available all over the U.S. for like 25 bucks. It's a hell of a wine for that price point. Number 5, Chateau Smitho Lafite in France. Legendary producer, was just there last year. They make excellent red wines, but they're probably more known for their white wine, their Pessac Léognan white. To me, it's one of the greatest white Bordeaux I've ever tasted. Also, just side note, Pessac Léognan, not the most prestigious area of Bordeaux. A lot of people go up into the Médoc. For me, Pessac Léognan, I just like the reds and the whites that come from that region. It's worth checking out. Some great producers. One thing that people don't realize about Bordeaux is a lot of properties are pretty far away. Bordeaux is named after the city of Bordeaux, which is like the 3rd largest city in France, I believe. But if you get a car, get out to Pessac Léognan, it's like 45 minutes to go up to the major properties up the Médoc. It takes like an hour. It's a small 2-lane road. It can be pretty difficult. Number 2 from Rioja, Marqués del Riscal, known for its extraordinary property. There's a hotel on site. The hotel was designed by a famous architect. I'm blanking right now. It's really quite a sight to see. You can go there. They have a lot of old vintages that you can taste. You can stay at the hotel. Last time I was there, I was just visiting by myself. I was just a normal tourist. I wasn't fully working in wine at the time. But the reason I was going there, I was going to pick up an Australian guy that was working in nearby San Sebastian. He was friends of a friend. I think his friend's wedding was there. I went by and picked him up. It's probably Katina Zapata's number 1, I'm guessing. Let's check. I was actually just with one of the owners, one of the family members, Laura Katina, in Nantucket, the Nantucket Wine Festival. Again, I haven't been to the estate yet. And funny thing, last week I was at a collector dinner and we opened the White Bones. It's a Chardonnay. A lot of people thought it was white Burgundy. It's an outstanding wine. But I think even their historic rose Chardonnay is great. It's shown up in a blind tasting video here before. Their Malbecs are good. They're well distributed. She's also a doctor. She's got a great personality. She always wears this red beret. And talk about branding, at the Nantucket Wine Festival, at their booth, they were passing out red berets to everybody. Now that's good marketing. Tell me, do you have any favorite properties that showed up in the world's best vineyards list? What do you think about the list? Let me know. I'd love to hear.